I'm Kate Potasic, the University of Tennessee's faculty member behind our Vested Certified Deal Architect program, where we teach people the art, science, and practice of highly collaborative and successful business relationships. Today, I want to share a 7-minute excerpt from a longer Vested conference that was hosted by EP Business and Hospitality, where I was interviewing Vince Edge and John Alexander, two of our graduates from the University of Tennessee's Vested program. Now, Vince is the Service Strategy and Governance Lead for EMEA for Johnson & Johnson, and John Alexander is his two-in-a-box partner at Sodexo, where he's the EMEA Governance and Performance Lead. And together, they champion bringing the Vested 5 rules to practice. So stay tuned, 7 minutes, raw and uncut. You'll get to hear from Vince and John about how they're applying Vested in practice.
I want to say that I'm not representing Johnson & Johnson today, so any views or anything I say is purely my own perspective. I just need to say that. The thing with Vested is you're continually working together because you set objectives for both companies that align. So straight away, all the behaviours change. So I think that really is one of the things. Also, it's the openness of how it applies. But really, the key to it is the alignment of the objectives, because it just changes everyone's behaviour for the positive.
There's shared value that comes out of this. You know, there's consideration about the supplier and what happens to the supplier through the duration of the contract. Vested gives us the opportunity to do that. It gives us the opportunity to invest in innovation and share in the rewards when we do so. So it really is win-win. And the Vested, it's the system that allows you to do that.
You know, everyone wants the innovation, they want the savings, they want the service improvement. They go through the RFQ process, they request quotation or whatever, and they get a new supplier in, and then it's the same old. If you want to make a difference, you've got to change what you're doing.
You've got to be right in there, working alongside, supporting the customer, coming up with the ideas. It's a difficult one because it doesn't always feel comfortable, especially when it involves transparency and trust and your stakeholders in the business. You know, part of this is about the risk transfer to the right party who's best equipped to deal with it. So you've got to own it, take it, run with it, improve it, enhance it, innovate and develop. We have this requirements roadmap that was built as part of the rules. It starts with our vision statement, our desired outcomes, our objectives, right the way through that says, okay, so how are we going to measure these? What are we going to do it with? And, you know, how do we incentivize it? Who does it? It's this great big picture from left to right, top to bottom of how you're going to achieve your outcomes. That's brilliant. One of my favorite bits, which if you're talking about performance metrics is an odd thing to talk about, but one of my favorite bits is actually around how we measure our relationship, because Vested, your relationship is you know, such a big part of how you're going to be successful.
Certain types of contracts, someone's got to lose for someone to win. You know, and that's where the difference is. And how you achieve that is through having things, you know, like guardrails. You know, the guardrails is something that is, again, from the toolkit, where each company agrees these are the things that we've got to achieve out of this relationship. And having that clearly defined up front, coupled with transparency, so open book, and then you're both going in the same direction. And it's purely by having that transparency and that alignment that really supports. And it's all back to the behaviours, because the minute you link the finances with the behaviours, again you're setting yourself up for success. The differences would come from the way that you manage a vested contract, because it's It's outcomes. So you're focused on the outcomes and the objectives, not whether the KPI is green or red. Now, that's not to say we don't look at the KPIs, and sometimes we need to take a look at those KPIs and say, that's green too much, we need to review that and refresh it.
I would say for me, it's the two right people on a contract talking to each other. It's not getting filtered through a third party or somebody who's a manager who doesn't really know what you're about. Particularly if you're an SME or a specialist, subject matter expert, you get the right people talking to the right person on the other side of the business, because you've got to make decisions. If you're going to really get to know the customer, from my point of view, you get to know the customer to know what they need so that you can offer the right solutions and talk to the right people and their side of the business. So it's aligning those individuals who can, with the right empowerment, but with the right governance around it and control still. We had one of our sites in the UK. They identified a cleaning system. It turns, nobody please ask me the technical way this works, but it turns tap water into something called stabilized aqueous ozone. Sounds very good. But basically it allows you to take away detergents and dangerous chemicals. And they saw that this would be a great benefit to the client, because it did save money, actually, because it was cheaper to do. There's an upfront cost. We worked out with the client how that would be amortized, no problem. But because it brought savings, it paid for itself. It wasn't just money that was good, it was the fact that it aligned with some objectives we had, and J&J have as well, around our corporate and social responsibility. So it was something else that wasn't really contracted in that way, but we aligned values between the two companies.
Yeah, I'm going to use the COVID word. I do apologise, but through the COVID journey, we worked together with Sodexo to make sure that we managed it, supporting them, supporting us, supporting their employees, to the point where we had no disputes, no issues. So the pony is that we were able to ride through the challenging time of COVID and come out the other end and ready to serve our customers when they're ready to come back to the office, which is the most important part. So really walk into it knowing exactly what you're doing. When you do it, if you make the decision to go down the route, also bring everyone along. So the legal team, procurement, it shouldn't be sprung on them at the end to say, can you approve this? You need them from the beginning to be involved in the training so that they understand what you're trying to achieve.
I would say be clear and be brave. So be clear in what you want, know what you want going into, so you can have clear outcomes. But also be brave as well. Doing it. It challenges traditional mindset and positions and your behaviours for both the buyer and the supplier. You heard that earlier, I think. But it does come with rewards when you do it right. You can't cherry pick and take the little bit that you think suits you, because you're not in a win-win situation then, are you? So you go into it properly.
Thanks a lot, Vince and John, for sharing your insights in this short video clip, as well as in the longer Vested conference that was hosted by EP Business and Hospitality. And shout out to Chris Shepardson, who originally hosted that conference.